Hello, everybody. My name is Liron Shoham. I am Executive Director of the Interagency Task Force on Israeli-Arab Issues. We're an American Jewish Resource Center on Arab citizens of Israel. I'm so happy to welcome you to today's call on Jewish-Arab relations on Israeli campuses. Since October 7th and the onset of the war, academic institutions everywhere have grappled with heightened tensions. In Israel, these challenges focus on the fabric of relations and heightened fears between Jewish and Arab students and faculty, much of it taking place on social networks as well as in person on campus. While campuses in Israel remain largely calm, administrators are challenged to balance freedom of expression while responding to security concerns and fostering and maintaining an inclusive and shared community space. As you know, Arab citizens make up 21% of the population in Israel, yet academic campuses are often the first time that Jewish and Arab citizens meet in a meaningful way. Over the last decade, the government of Israel and higher education institutions have been making concerted efforts to enhance Arab society's access to academic life in Israel. This is both proven as the most impactful vehicle for socioeconomic mobility for Arab society and has become an important framework for fostering shared life and experiences among Jewish and Arab citizens. Given the cultural, linguistic, and economic gaps between Jewish and Arab citizens in normal times, creating inclusive and multicultural campuses has become a professional and institutional priority, an area of professional activity in Israeli academia. Since October 7th, the institutional capacities that have been put in place over these years have been stretched and deeply challenged to deal with unprecedented tensions and fears, and the responsibilities that institutions hold for relations between students, both on campus and online. Since campuses are at the center of so much focus for how the American Jewish community is related to the war, we wanted to provide an opportunity to learn about developments on Israeli campuses, including insights into just how different the context and issues are over there and what can be learned from the professionals leading this work. We are so fortunate to have with us today two senior professionals responsible for promoting shared life in Israel's major academic institutions, Dr. Yosepha Tabib-Calif, Vice President of Strategy and Academic Programs for the Rothschild Partnerships and Director of Gisha in Academia. Hello, Yosepha. And Professor Muna Khoury, Vice President of Strategy and Diversity at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Hello, Muna. We will start the conversation with a few moderated questions that I will ask Yosepha and Muna, and then open it up for Q&A. Please feel free to use the chat to share your questions as we go. We have the task force team with us to monitor the questions and collect them for Q&A. In addition, our Israel representative, Michal Barak, please say hello. Who is part of founding the diversity unit at Hebrew University, will be responding to some of the clarifying questions as we go. So hopefully you can really use the chat to enhance your learning and discussion. With no further ado, Yosepha, the first question goes to you. Yosepha, Gisha is a project that was established to coordinate and promote cooperation around inclusivity initiatives across Israeli academic institutions. Can you tell us a little bit more about Gisha and, from your vantage point, the current state of affairs in Israeli academia regarding Jewish-Arab relations?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm really happy to be here. And I know even some of the people here, so Erev Tov. And I'm really happy to be here with Muna. It's not the first time that we talk together, so I'm honored, and thank you for the invitation. I do want to start by saying that we started this program in 2016, and Michal was, I think, one of the founders of Israeli Hope in Academia. That was the name of the program. And it was an initiative of the former president of Israel, Rubi Rivlin. And I think it's important to address this because his speech about the four tribes was the idea, the prominent idea that to what we know today as Gisha and the entire concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Israeli academia. And you said it, Liron, also in your introduction, that academia is the first and foremost arena for encounters between all societal groups in Israel. The Jewish groups in Israel do meet during the army service. We do not meet during the educational system period. If I studied, and I did study in the religious educational system, I never met someone from the Arab educational system. I never met someone from the ultra-Orthodox. We are not segregated, but we are separated. So we have 4 streams of education. We never meet. And academia was the first place when we can actually meet, and not only meet, but really study together, be together on the same campus, on the same areas, and for not for a month, but for 3 years and maybe more. So it was very, very important. I just want to say that Tikva Israelit, Israeli Open Academia, started with a new language in Israel, the language of DEI, which I know it's a very complicated concept to explain and address these days, but it was a really new notion here in Israel. It's only 7 years now, and 7-year old, this concept. And in the beginning, it was about to appoint a professional to be the address for all kinds of questions about DEI, because academia is no longer a place only for research and teaching. These are the 2 main missions for academia, but also since the 90s, we know that it has a third role, and it's the social role, and it's about making education, higher education, accessible to all groups in Israel. So once we had a lot of groups coming into the academic, what we used to call as ivory tower, and now it's open for many, many groups, then we need to address what is happening when maybe, and I don't want to say maybe groups that were misrepresented in academia, and now we can see them, then we need to think how to manage all this. So this is why this program is existing, and now this program is called Gisha. And we underwent a strategic process in 2021, and the difference, I think, between the Tikva Israelit and Gisha is that in Gisha, we decided that we want to see a change on a national scale, and to be the recalibrator of all institutions, academic, public institutions in Israel, and to make sure that we can translate everything that is coming bottom up to top-down policy, and to implement it within all academic institutions. So this is what we do. Our focus is on infrastructures, cultivating infrastructures and cultivating senior forums to address those issues and to translate it into policy. So this is in general, like not 60 seconds, but maybe more about Israeli Hope and Gisha.
Thank you so much. So by infrastructure, you mean professionals' roles, putting policies and carving out spaces. And
exactly, it was working with appointees, professional appointees, and helping them. I think that the main change was moving from the project-based approach to do something here, something there, to a more strategic and systemic approach. This is what we wanted to see. And we wanted to help the institutions to write a strategic work plan and to execute it according to the challenges that each and every institution is dealing with, because the institutions in Israel are very different. We have 58 institutions, academic institutions in Israel. 35 of them are public academic institutions. 8 of them are universities with different challenges, and the rest are colleges, and within the colleges we have different categories. So it's all very complicated, but this is what we did or doing in this program.
So before we dive into Hebrew University with Muna, can you give us a bird's eye view of how the
Jewish-Arab relations
since October 7th, what have been the challenges? How did it change an already complex situation?
So here I'm going to take more than tell me how much time do I have, because it's a little bit more than 2 minutes. I do want to say that the war posed a new and formidable challenges to Israel's academic institutions. As you know, many students and faculty members were called for active military duty. And as you said, Liron, tensions among different population groups, chief among them between Jewish and Arab societies, have escalated. The academic institutions, as you know, postponed the start of the academic year, the school year, to December 2023. This is the first time in Israeli history that academia was shut down for 3 months. It never happened before. It happened during COVID, but for other reasons. And it happened during the riots of May 21, but only for 2 days, 3 days. It was very different. This is a whole 3 months. But during these months, we had the opportunity to prepare ourselves to the challenges. So since the outbreak of the war, we've been involved in mapping relevant needs, integrating cross-institutional information, including gathering information about main challenges, and formulating possible solutions, sharing work plans. This is what we did with various institutional diversity units and developing new knowledge. We were able to learn about many challenges among all institutions, and we divided them into 3 main categories. One of them is the shared life or the shared society or the Jewish-Arab tensions, as we call it. It depends on the perspective and the semantic that you choose to use. But I do want to just to introduce you to the 3 categories of the challenges that we've identified. So the first one, and it's a very natural one, it's different aspects of resilience and trauma. And when I'm saying this kind of category, we're talking about uncertainty and instability with regard to the routine of studies in this school year. We're talking about student body, academic staff, administrative staff who were experiencing trauma and distress and faced emotional difficulties to bring tasks to completion, devote time to learning, and more. It is clear to the institution that this aspect is not localized, but special attention is required throughout the entire year. And I can tell you a secret: we will need it also next year, because the ramification of this war will continue with us for next year as well. It's also important to note that many of the students, and we're talking about 20 to 30% overall from all academic institutions, were missing. We did not attend school at all. We're talking students and faculty as well. And also, in addition to that, we have students and faculty evacuated from their place of residence. So it created, and especially we're talking about Tel Chai College up north, and we're talking about Sapir. Tel Chai, it's a very interesting case because next year they're not going to even have a physical place where to study. So people will be sent, different faculty will be sent to different areas in Israel to study there. We'll see how it will influence the next school year, next year. The second categories, and it's the main category for me, is challenges related to shared life and society. And here we're talking about apprehension among all groups, all members of all groups, Arabs, Jews, Druze, Bedouin, and others, regarding the return to campus and shared spaces. We still see it. The feeling prevalent among both Jews and Arabs that there is a little public recognition of the plight of the Arab minority on campus, students and faculty members. The feeling that they do not receive support or protection, and maybe have no sense of belonging to the academic institutions community during this extreme time. We're talking about concerns about students from Arab society, about coming to campus, speaking, sharing their thoughts due to fear of being labeled as negative, as the negative factor, maybe as the enemy, and of an increase in expression of racism against them. It's really important to say that. We saw it in the beginning of in the first 3 months. We still see it during this unique year. We're talking about complaints, and I know that people ask me, and probably will ask Muna as well, the most questions is about the disciplinary committees and about the complaints against students, as well as members of the academic and administrative staff from Arab society, feeling of persecution and incitement, mainly following posts on social media. I guess that Muna maybe will elaborate about that, but this is really a key issue that we had to deal throughout the year. We're also talking about student and faculty concerns about studying heterogeneous classes. I maybe will share with you recent research that we're doing with UJA about this specifically when Arab students and Jewish students are studying in the same class, and maybe sometimes they have like shared missions and work, and they have to do it together in collaboration. And it also poses some new challenges for Jewish students and Arab students alike. And also concerns about the lack of tools to cope with volatile events in the classroom. I know that people think that coming to math class is the same as teaching about the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's not the same. It requires like different attention. And I know that Muna, they did something amazing at the Hebrew University about that, and giving specific training to people from social sciences and other training to people from different disciplines and faculties. So it's important to say that as well. So as you can know, we have a lot of issues and a lot of challenges in this area. The third category, and I will end with that, maybe if you want, I can talk about the coping mechanisms to deal with those challenges. But the third category is the dropout problem. Maybe we don't see it as a problem right now. We will see it as a problem next year. We do not have data. There is a lack of data on the extent of the impact of recent events on students. And we can see that we don't, right now, we have a lot of people that are absent from the school year. So we don't know how to evaluate exactly what is happening with them. Are they coming back? Will they drop out next year? Maybe they will decide to postpone the school year. Maybe they will decide to do something else. Maybe if you're a student in Tel Hai and you didn't sign up for studying in all kinds of places in Israel, maybe you will decide to move to another institution. We will see it next year. But we do know, just one more sentence to say that diversity groups will be the most to be affected and will be the most sensitive to those kind of changes. So this is something that we need to pay attention. So this is like the map of the main challenges that we mapped along with the vice presidents from universities and along with the diversity officers from all academic public institutions, colleges, and other institutions as well.
Thank you so much. And yes, I was going to comment that dropout rates are already a heightened concern for Arab citizens of Israel. And so the implications of an entire generation of students with lower representation in higher education can have vast socioeconomic implications. Thank you, Yosepha. So just mapping the whole area of Jewish-Arab tensions that manifests in the classroom and manifests in calls for disciplinary action based on what's happening in social media and requires disciplinary committees from the university. And often these are Jewish and Arab disciplinary committees to make very, very hard decisions on a daily basis about what to about how to make those decisions. Resilience and trauma, which I think I'm going to move on to in a second. Resilience and trauma, which I'm assuming also requires different tools for Arab students and the kind of trauma that they're going through, lack of recognition, and then the dropout that we just mentioned.
Liron, I just want to add one more sentence before if you move into Muna, just to say to the audience here that this war is very unique. It's very complicated. It's not, I remember Professor Netta Ziv from Tel Aviv University. She's the commissioner. She's the vice president for diversity and inclusion in Tel Aviv University. And she said, this is something new. We had to invent new methods, new tools. This is not something that we can pull from other organizations to say, you know what, we've been through wars. This is Israel. We've been through rough situations. This is not the same as other wars. This is not the same as the riots of 2021. This is not the same as other emergency times. So here, even if we're talking about disciplinary committees and other problems and issues that we had, it took us a lot of time to form mechanisms to cope with these extreme challenges. So it's really important for me to say that.
Thank you so much. And Muna, maybe this is a great place for you to come in and tell us what have the challenges been like for you at Hebrew University? What are some of the manifestations of tensions that are different from what they've been with in the past? Can you please take us into campus and what it's been like for
Actually, Yosepha touched many of the challenges at the national levels. We had additional thing that we had this time compared to the past, that all of us were in the same boat. It was like something that all the universities in the past, many of the political tensions were in Jerusalem. So we had to cope, and other universities had different things. At this time, and after October 7th, all the universities, all the academic institutions, actually, not only universities, also colleges, found themselves in a situation that we were not in the past. And one of the things, of course, was the thinking of how to open the academic year, especially in a place that we have around 17% Arab students. And we were working very hard to diversify our university. And as we always say, diversity is a great thing, but it's also a challenging thing in a place like Israel, and especially when we have political tension and war. So we were going back to teach during war, and we have different populations that they were very worried. Students, and as Yosepha mentioned, Jewish students and Arab students. And one of the things that we actually found out when in our discussions, that none of the groups thought that the other group has to be afraid of coming to the campus. Jewish students were surprised when we had a meeting with Arab students when they were told that they were also scared to take, for example, public transportations. And Arab students said, why you are scared? Like, you are the majority, you are, you have weapon, you can hold now a gun, and everyone can do it. It's allowed for everyone, almost, even a child in school, you can do it. So it was something that actually, and this is again goes back to meeting each other. So it was the first time these people heard that both of them are very worried. So we have the students. Of course, we have a lot of our students were in the army. We opened the academic year with more than 6,000 students in the army. And also we have faculty and administrative staff, in which we have also to work with them in how to teach. And Yosepha touched that lightly when she spoke about the different workshops that we worked on in order to bring a faculty to classes and to give them the ability and the confidence that they can teach during wartime. And the administrative staff, which is another population that also in many ways politically they differ, generally speaking, than the academic faculty members, and their perception, which in many cases, in many universities, many institutions, there is a tension between the academic and the administrative staff. And this situation also brought another factor to this relationship and to the relationship of administrative staff toward Arab students.
Can you bring us into more specifically what the triggers are for the fears and the tensions? What is actually happening on campus? What is it like for an Arab student? What are they, if they come onto campus one day, or if they, what complaints are they afraid of, even in their online life? We hear a lot that Arab students have stopped communicating publicly on social media at all.
So let's differentiate between the beginning of the war and now. Okay, at the beginning of the war, many of the things that people were afraid of are based on previous experiences of taking public transportation, especially in Jerusalem, especially religious girls who had, the head cover, and they were very worried because we know from the past they suffered from violence from people on their way. Their fear wasn't related to the campus. The only thing that people mentioned in that respect is that we were told that a lot of students will come with weapons to the campuses. And this is actually was an issue that we were all worried about it, not only Arab students. Actually, the few complaints, official complaints that we got in that respect came from Jewish people, not from Arab students. Fortunately, the number of weapons in campuses after we opened the academic year was much lower than what we expected. We were expected much higher number of students who are bringing the weapon with them. At the beginning, we noticed that some people brought the weapon and then it stopped. I believe it's also, as I always said, actually, I was of those that wasn't that worried, because when I saw the people who were practicing with me in the gym, and I saw how much they suffered while they're holding their guns, I said, people like think they are young people, they can't, trust themselves even to remember to take it with them everywhere, and it's very scary. They can be punished. So we saw much lower students, a number of students who are coming with a weapon to. Some administrative staff brought weapon because we had this kuninut, how you call it, at the university.
The informal security.
Informal security, because many of our formal security were in the army. So we had this faculty and administrative mainly working. The fear now is totally different. Actually, one of the things that people are worried of what's going on outside of the university, of arresting people, about things that they are posting online, and things that would usually you even don't think that they have any direction of supporting terror, supporting violence, or they have anything, that you can be arrested because of them. And unfortunately, people are very worried about it. And we have seen few cases that people were arrested about things that they posted on Facebook, Instagram. At the university, actually, I have to say something that you mentioned, that people are busy, this disciplinary committee, on a daily basis. I can say that fortunately, we're almost not busy. I'm part of one of the committees at the university. And at the beginning, we have many complaints between students complaining about each other. I can say that only 3 students were sent to the formal disciplinary committee, because we had a process that we built in order to check the complaints. So we have a pre-committee that we look at the complaint, we read it, we translate it, because many times it's in Arabic. So we ask also for professional translation of what is written. And then we can decide if we want to send it to the official committee. We had only 3 that were sent, and none of them was suspended from the university. The 3 of them apologized for the other people that felt that they hurt them by something that they said. And so far, we didn't have any new. We have all the time some complaints, not so many, but fortunately, the students are not complaining so much about each other. And also, we didn't have this much of students who were sent to the official committee.
We did in the beginning hear a lot about the paralyzing fear and the complaints, and I think that the stories of the complaints, the disciplinary actions themselves became viral and had a silencing effect. I want to ask you, I want to come from the American context and say, so much when we think about tensions on campus, we imagine protests. And in the past, around war, around the wider conflict, campuses in Israel are also a place for political expression. I'm curious how, Muna, if you can speak about Hebrew University's experience with the question, if this question of freedom of expression or freedom to protest exists there, and Yosepha, how you see this in the national context.
So at the beginning of the war, one of the things that actually our president and rector did, they appointed a committee to form the guidelines for freedom of speech, because we noticed that we don't have them. We actually had a guideline of how to react to conflict situation that we prepared for 1.5 years. We worked on that, but we didn't have the exact guidelines. So this committee that I was part of it formed the guidelines for freedom of speech, and we told the students what is allowed, what is not allowed. For example, holding the Palestinian flag in campus, it's not something that is against the law. Saying that you are worried about the Palestinians and you feel sorry for their suffer, it's also not against the law. And this is actually was a tool that helped us in our disciplinary committee, because we know what are our limits and what crosses these limits. So this is one thing. Unfortunately, I can say myself and few colleagues were very worried that we didn't have a lot of demonstrations in campus, because I learned at the Hebrew University. I was in campus since 93. I, of course, learned during the Intifada, learned during 95, during like so many years. And we had a lot of demonstrations, like we were very active. And I believe that part of myself and part of my identity and part of what I do now is formed all actually by my political activity at the university. So I was very worried, and not only me, I have to say, that students were not involved in political demonstrations. And I can say that lately I'm happy that it's happening. Sometimes we are not happy of what they say while they are protesting, okay? But you know, it's something that you can't control all the time. We try to work with the students after one of the demonstrations that students, Arab, and actually it's not Arab, it's like Arab and Jewish students who were protesting against the war, and Jewish students who were protesting against them. So we called the heads of these unions to a meeting with the rector, with the dean of students, and myself after the meeting, and we told them that some of the expressions that they called during the protest are not acceptable, even though they are not against the law, because we want them to respect each other. So we have done also things like that.
Mhm.
And I believe that it's very important that the students will say what they think of, they will express their opinions, and also, you know, it's part of being a student. Like, if students will not demonstrate, what do you expect from the other people in our country? So I believe it's very important, and I'm happy it's happening lately more. And we had several demonstrations lately. In one of them, our president actually participated and spoke about the new law that is going to be, I'm hoping not, in the country. So it's not only our students, it's the management of the university that participated lately in one of the demonstrations. Of course, the rector also was there.
Mhm.
Thank you, Yosepha. There's so much to ask about this, but Yosepha, give us the national.
I can add that everything that Muna said, it's maybe I know it sounds like a compliment, but maybe just to explain to you how we worked from October 8th, because October 7th, you know, the beginning of the war, but on Sunday we convened vice presidents and diversity officers. Every week we learned together what we should do. And when I'm saying learning together what we should do, we collected every data, every letter released from the administration of the academic institution. We talked about demonstrations. We talked about complaints, about forming disciplinary committees. We talked about what to do when you have a demonstration. It's not like having a demonstration in other times, like during the judicial overhaul. It's something else. Everything is very, very sensitive. Everything can turn campuses into a war zone. So we had to think, and I think academia, maybe, I don't know, maybe other spheres and other arenas in Israel, but I think that academic sphere was I think maybe the only one to sit together, all institutions, and to think together and to decide together about what to do. I know that each institution implemented it differently, but I have to tell you, I remember a demonstration in Haifa University, and I remember the vice president there calling us on the WhatsApp group and saying, listen, there is a demonstration of the right-wing organization Im Tirtzu and B'Tselmo. What should we do? How to address this? And she's receiving online guidance and consultation from other vice presidents, from Tel Aviv University, from Muna and the Hebrew University, telling her, do not panic. This is what you need to do. And then we took this incident, this case, this event, and we turned it into instructions. So then we released it to all institutions. We had a database. It was online database. We updated it every day. And with everything that we did, like freedom of speech, we do have a freedom of speech in Israel, but we didn't know what to do with the freedom of speech during this war. So we had to rewrite and to make sure that all students, and it is accessible to all communities on campus. And I remember when Tel Aviv University released the first freedom of speech, we asked them, can we use it? Can we make some changes and copy it to another institution? And this is what we did. So when I'm looking on the interinstitutional level, I see that it was the first time, I think for me, it was the first time that we worked together. We consulted on every and each issue that we had. And we were very supportive of one another. It was a very, very, very extreme and complex situation. And I think it was very important.
So I
We are
see
still very
question.
supportive, actually. I had something that yesterday that came out, and then just brought my colleagues in the group, asked them, and one of them just called me yesterday. She said, yeah, I had this situation in my institution. And it's very helpful, you know, when you have someone else to talk with them, and they are, as I said, it's not something that is happening only at the Hebrew University. And each institution, of course, has its own challenges, but we have many common things together.
So I want to, I see questions are starting to come in chat, and we'll go to that in 1 minute. I just want to say what I'm hearing from both of you, and I think that who, if not you, to understand the institutional layer that has been developed over the last years to deal with inclusivity issues, is that the strength of the professional level has been growing and has been a huge benefit for the fact that the issue of inclusivity, and that there is an umbrella organization and professional appointees at each university, has created a resilience around this issue. And I think from just hearing you speak about that in this way is really inspiring and amazing. I want to ask contextual questions about the current time, and how not understate just how difficult still Jewish-Arab relations are, and how much tension there is in the country. From yours, how do you think Arab society, Arab citizens are going to feel about is this going to affect the trend of more Arab students feeling welcome on campus on the one hand? And the other, while you have the professionals and the vice presidents and the rectors speaking the language of inclusivity, what is the receptivity to the question of inclusivity and shared campus in the wider context that you're working on? Whoever feels like you want to answer this is to both of you. And then we'll go to Q&A.
I can, for this specific question, can share with you recent research that we're doing, and maybe it's only initial insights, but I think it would be very interesting for you and for us as well to understand how complicated this all, and I agree with you, Liron, I don't think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be very complicated, and maybe, I don't know, I'll share with you the initial insight and you will tell me what do you think about that. So I just want to say that following the war, the Jewish Federation of New York and us, Gisha in Academia, we started a project together. They granted like 16 academic institutions on the topic of Jewish-Arab tensions, and they wanted to give, it's a micro grant, it's not so micro, but let's call it like this. And they wanted to see how academic institutions deal with or can offer not solutions, but maybe projects to deal with the Jewish-Arab tensions. So we're talking about universities and colleges. And we wanted to see what kind of activities were facilitated, you know, through those grants, and also what would be the outcomes of the various interventions that of the institutions. And what we saw, and we interviewed all the 16 organizations and the DI officers and the people who were involved in this specific project initiative. And what we saw is that the interviews with the officers and with the people involved outlined two different narratives to describe the situation of the Jewish-Arab tension. So according to one narrative, and I quote, someone told us, everything is fine. It's not as bad as we thought. People continue to work and study together. There is no breakdown. The investment in the preparations of the vice presidents and the DI officers and the entire academic institutions was successful. Great. So this is one narrative that we saw. But according to another narrative, which is not necessarily contradict the first one, it's maybe, I don't know, complete maybe the first narrative, is that the success story is misleading, as it's based on a system of silencing and intimidation of the Palestinian students. The narrative claims that the success is superficial and that below the surface there is a deep dissatisfaction, especially among the Palestinian faculty and students. However, because they fear from their place, for their place in the universities and colleges, so these lecturers and students are reluctant to express their views, thus creating false impression that everything is fine. So we see two different and not contradicting, but maybe different stories, different interpretations to the same story and to the same reality. I think that I'm a little bit concerned about the second narrative and that we need to prepare ourselves for next year and to see how we're going to address, because it's not that everything is fine. It is true that academic year was fine. People came and studied, but underneath there is a lot of, by the way, this year, we gave a lot of support. We gave a lot of resources to make sure that everyone will stay safe and calm and protected. But I'm not sure that next year we're going to have the same resources to pour on the system. I don't know what next year will bring. I don't know when the war is going to be over. So I would pay a lot of attention to the second narrative. I do want to also add that
I just want to say, really, we have so many questions piling up. So quick.
So one more sentence, just to give you another insight from this research, that what we see is what we called polite disregard and cold hostility. We do see among Jewish and Arab students that it seems like both of them, Jewish and Arabs alike, are investing active efforts in avoiding discussions about the war, about the situation, about politics, trying to continue with minimal interaction. And we have examples to how we see it and why this is happening. And we have more insights about this. At the end of September, we're going to release the report. So I think it would be very interesting also to share it with you if you want.
Thank you. I think people will be very, very happy to see it. We have so many questions piling up. So Muna, I'm going to give you a chance to respond through another question. There was a question of asking you to give some specific examples of what is of what is a discourse that is difficult for committee speech between the demonstrators or protests that might be unacceptable for university, but not against the law. Or
for example, even holding the Palestinian flag, which some students thought that it's against the law, and they were talking like you can't hold it, and they were like cursing other students from the other side because they were holding that. So we explained to them that it's not against the law. So far, the law is in Israel is not preventing people from holding the Palestinian flag, and students should know that, because many of the discussion between the students who were in the one side to those on the other side was about holding the flag, which is not against the law. And also calling students, they have something that they said about demonstrations, for example, telling students, go to Gaza, I wish you to be, things like that, but they are not, normal things that people say in protesting, but usually you will not pay attention to them. But especially at this time that we know that there is a huge tension between students and, everyone is worried. We wanted actually to make sure that students know that we want them to demonstrate. Again, I say that, and we told them, we want you to continue doing this. Just, we want you also to be careful and to know that there is another side for both of them, not only for one side.
I'm curious if any universities are starting to think about undergraduate academic programs to teach shared society. This is a question that came directly to me.
What? Can you say it again?
If any universities are starting to think about undergraduate academic programs to teach about shared society based on the experiences of Gisha and its partners.
I don't think that we have to have a program about it. It's like you have a program about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, okay? Only the students who are doing that will learn about it. What we believe in is actually doing things at the university level and not focusing on it as something special that you have to learn it. Because if you do it this way, you will expose only those people that usually they are interested in that. I don't say that they are not learning from this experience, but usually they do it, and usually they will come, and usually if you look what they did in the past, what they will do in the future, these are students that are much more involved in these topics. So what we are trying to do, actually doing things at the university level during classes, normal classes, we have something called inclusive class, that we have students who are talking and learning with each other, doing assignments in mixed groups. We have someone I saw asked about the ambassador program that we have at the university that represents students from all the diverse groups in the Israeli society. They work with each other as a large project. They have also a committee from the dorms. That is also multicultural committee of students. There are around 70 students each year, and they are also working on issues related to coexistence, shared society. We have so many programs that we at the diversity unit actually try to implement from top down, but we also have a lot of initiatives that are coming from students, and we are trying to help them in this initiative. For example, the fountain in the desert, Maayan Bamidbar, it's a language exchange between Jewish and Arab students. Arab students teach Jewish students Arabic, and Jewish students actually help Arab students with their assignments. Each year we have at the Hebrew University only 400 students in this project, and it's now a national project that in many universities are implementing that. And we are very proud of our students that they actually initiated that at the Hebrew University. So we have many different things. I don't believe in having one specific program about it.
And even if it's not coming from the university, it's you can see this year and every year, but this year specifically, the collaboration between philanthropy and civil society, and working with different leadership programs with universities, in Haifa University, in the Technion, in other colleges, like the Ambassadors for Shared Life. This is a project of the Rothschild partnerships, working with philanthropy, and we have like 12 groups, very successful right now, even though that we do know to say that dialogue groups right now, it's a very complicated method to maintain, but we can see it. We can see different initiatives coming from the collaboration between, intersector collaboration with academia as well. So we do have that this year. I guess we're going to have that next year as well.
I'm looking at the chat questions coming in, and there's almost two different threads of conversation. On the one hand, we have a lot of people who on the call who have been following the work of the professionalization of the issue of inclusivity and the growth of this structure, and they're curious to know if there's government support for this. They're also curious to know the differences between university campuses and college campuses. And we have a lot of people who are maybe learning, who are coming because they're really interested in what is happening right now. What is the state of discourse? Where are the lines of tension? They feel a tension to themselves. And some of them are asking for examples of cases like the one with Nadira Shalhoub-Kevorkian at Hebrew University, and how people are responding and what kind of tensions that created. Because these are very different sets of questions, and I know, Muna, you've probably been asked the one about Nadira many, many times. I want to give you the opportunity to choose how you want to respond, which ones you want to respond to.
Yeah, actually, I was expecting this question. Of course, I have been like lately in London, in Geneva, in Lausanne, and everywhere I'm going, I'm asked about this this issue. I have to say that I'm filling a professional, official position at the Hebrew University. I'm vice president. So what I can say in two things. As Mona, the Palestinian Arab person at the Hebrew University, and I can say as Mona, who is part of the management of the university. And just saying that, you can see the complexity of my way and my feelings about answering this kind of question. I can say, generally speaking, what Yosepha said, and you ask her, what we can do in the future. I think we have to learn a lot from what happened. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I think that we have to learn a lot, even about the way we respond to these topics. As I said earlier, we had a lot of guidelines on how to deal with conflict situations. These guidelines that we prepared for 1.5 years, we were not prepared for situation like what happened with Nadir. And I don't think that we knew how to respond to it. This is why the university now actually initiated a new committee that is not dealing, it was clear that it's not dealing with Nadira's issue. The committee should deal generally about these topics that we don't have in our disciplinary form. Anything, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I just want to ask you because I feel like the sense that I'm getting, as much as you can sense over Zoom, is that people want to know about the ripple effects of what happened with Nadira. And I don't know, without taking a stand on it, can you say a little bit about what the actions that happened, how it affected, what the responses were from Arab society and what the responses were?
You know, when we talk about, I want to be very careful, because when you talk about the Arab society, you are talking like we are one group and we don't have any differences. We all think the same way. We all think that Nadira was right, the university was wrong. We have students who think this way. We have faculty members who think this way. I'm fortunate to be able to hear these voices, even if they were not able to tell anyone about them. I'm so happy that I have this relationship with our faculty members that they can tell me. We are very disappointed. We think now we were hurt, and our rector actually had a meeting with all Arab faculty members, because I told them that you have to talk with Arab faculty members. They feel very much hurt of this issue. To tell you that after the meeting with the rector, now they are very happy and convinced? No, but at least, I brought their voice to the management of the university. The same for Arab students. My daughter studies in Karem campus, okay? When I told her, she told me, Mom, you are talking about something that none of our students knows about what you are talking about. When you talk with students in Mountain Scopus, it seems that everyone knows what we are talking about. So talking about even students, I'm not talking about the differences between students politically, between campuses. Our Safra campus, where students learn natural sciences, we didn't have any demonstration coming from this campus. If you look
this is such important insight in the difference between the world that we live in, which we live on social media, and the world of real life. And I think that speaks to some of the challenges of the decisions that you've all, and as professionals, the lines that you've had to navigate.
Yeah, I saw what just to finish the thing, I just want to say that I'm not saying it didn't affect students. It actually affected students. One PhD student called me lately and she said, I'm studying discrimination about, juveniles and all these topics. I'm very worried about my future, whether I can get a position at the university after what Nadira said. So I told her, with all my due respect to you, you are not Nadira. You will not be Nadira now. You are just in your beginning of your position. And Nadira has a long way of her ideas and political issues. And like, even comparing yourself to her, it's not, the good thing to do. But you should know that I'm myself studying discrimination of the official system against juveniles and all what's happening and juvenile delinquency. I'm talking about it. It's not saying that, in my belief or the way that I perceive things, you can't look at things black and white. What happened with Nadira is very unfortunate thing. But what I believe that you can't take it and say now it's everything, you can talk about anything. And this is actually the main thing that we should be working on. Our work just started, even though the war is still, but I believe even after the war ends, we have a lot of work to make these students feel again belong to the university, secure, that they can express their opinions, and one day we can talk more, about these issues.
I really appreciate your answer. I think that it illustrates a lot. And I just want to say we have 4 minutes left for around hour. I know if people want to stay on, if Muna and Yosepha, you can stay for a few more minutes because there's so many questions. But I know that if people have to get off after 1 hour, that is the way of our world and our schedule these days. I want to you spoke about the differences within campuses. I want to get back to the question of colleges versus universities, because so many Arab citizens actually go to colleges. There are very, very high matriculation rates, relatively speaking, in colleges for Arab students. And if you can speak a little bit about how those institutions, do they have the same readiness to deal with these issues? How are the conversations different there?
I just want to start with saying that Malag Vatat, because I saw that a similar question was about the funding for the academic institutions. It is coming from the CHE, the Council for Higher Education, which is setting the policy, and the Planning and Budgeting Committee, which is giving the money to the public academic institutions. They do have investments in millions of shekels in the past 10 years when they declared the diversity policy. So the Gisha, Tikva Israelit, you call it as you want, is under this policy of CHE and PBC. We do have different institutions. Colleges are very different from universities, and the composition of the body students, in the numbers, in the location. Most universities are in the center, not in the center of Israel, but more center than in the periphery, except of Ben Gurion University, which is also a lot of people from the center is studying in Ben Gurion University instead of people from the periphery who are going to other places. Colleges are more in the periphery of Israel. They are more diverse in staff and in students than universities. We're talking, just for example, if in Tel Aviv University, or if there is 28,000 students, and we're talking about I don't know, diversity of, I don't even know how many, maybe Muna, you can help.
18%. It's like us.
18% Arab students, and maybe more diverse groups. But if you take Achva College, we have 40% of Bedouin community. If you take Tzfat College, we have over 60% Arab society. When we're saying Arab society in colleges, we're considering Muslims and Druze as well, and Christians as well, but the majority, of course, are Muslims students. So colleges are more diverse. They have different issues, different problems than universities. They have less resources to deal. It's not about readiness. It is about readiness, but they do have less resources. For example, the title Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion is not right now existing only in universities. This specific position, we do not have it in colleges. We barely have vice presidents for anything in colleges because they work differently. So if we want to appoint senior position appointee or senior position to allocate for this specific policy, then it's really hard to work to find, because they don't have resources for that. So they do deal with many issues, but they have less resources to deal with it. I do want to say that when I'm talking about public academic institutions, we all work together. We have training professional forum for diversity officers from all institutions. We have forum for vice presidents for diversity and inclusion. So we do have professional communities. We work with them on a daily basis. We meet every month for a professional training and also for peer learning, like to see, this is my dilemmas, this is what is happening in my college, I don't know what to do, I'm trying to offer some solutions to my institution. So we work together. So I think the Gisha for that matter is the one that it's a one platform to help all institutions get the same information and to see what they can do with it within their own institutions.
Thank you so much for this. I feel like perhaps the understated piece of all of this is that in Israel, you have Jewish students and Arab students for whom higher learning is going to continue to be the channel for social mobility, for shared learning, for developing the opportunities to both get to know each other and see their a path for contribution and participation in all the different tables of the country's life. And so this question of how do you continue to foster the capacities and build the capacities for continue to hold these two groups in the same places in such a volatile time is such a vibrant one. And it's I hope that if one thing people got from this call is the depth of professional commitment that exists in this rocky time to dealing with the hard questions and to making sure that this remains an open and developing project. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I will answer. Actually, you mentioned the word hope, and we can't live without it. So the main thing that leads me is the hope that we can make a change in our society. And the professional, I'm actually coming from social work. So if I don't believe in the ability of ours, the professionals, to change human behavior, I was the dean of the School of Social Work, so I wouldn't be in this position. So I believe that we can change attitudes, we can change even behaviors. We have to work hard. If we keep things to happen without intervening, it will get worse. So I believe that we have a lot of work to do. And we have been working for many years before October 7th. And I still, when Yosepha mentioned the two narratives, I believe that they are combined. It's not one of them correct and the other one is not. I believe that one part of the answer is the work that the institutions have been doing during the last, at least since my appointment. I have been in this position 3 years, but before that we had the Israeli Hope in the Academy, which is Gisha now. We had also the accessibility program. So we have many programs that we worked on, and as Yosepha mentioned, Michal initiated the unit for diversity at Hebrew University, I believe maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe earlier even. So we have been working for many years on these topics. So I think that what happened now is also related to that. We can't invest this much of work and, see no effect. We have seen that. But also I believe that the other part is the silencing and the fear of it. And we have to work on it. We can't say, okay, now the war is over when it's, I hope, soon. But we have to work on these feelings and on how we will be able also to bring back these students to feel safe to express their opinions at the university. I can tell you that in meetings with Jewish and Arab students, Jewish students say also the same things. When we bring them together, some of the Jewish students, they say, I don't think that I can express my opinions freely, and I don't think that we are learning in the university that many of our professors don't support the ideas that we have. And so you can see it. I don't say that this is an equal groups, because if the Jewish student will say what he thinks, he will not be called the other day or at the night for investigation, okay? So, but still, knowing the feelings is very important, and I believe we have to continue working. We don't have another option.
I think that is I think there's nothing I can add to that reality, and I thank you so much for giving us such a meaningful summation.
Liron, do we have another minute? Just to answer,
I just want to say people are, yes, but people are starting to drop off. So, but
I just looked at the chat and I saw Edna's questions about suspensions and in the 8 universities. And I just want to say that Mona gave the numbers at the Hebrew University, but when we look at Tel Aviv University, we're talking about over 200 complaints. Only 3 of them reached to the trial or the proceeding process. Only one of them, 2 of them I think they decided not to do anything with it, just like an educational process or something. And just to explain, I have to say, to give credit to universities and colleges for looking for each and every complaint, inviting the students, talking to them, explaining to them, not leaving anything, out there. I know that there's only one in Ben Gurion University who were suspended for a semester. Unfortunately, this specific semester, she had to learn like a seminar throughout the year. So she wasn't able to continue for a second semester because the seminar started at the first semester, but they did find a solution. At Technion, we had over 60 complaints. Only 3 of them reached to the proceeding stage, and they are still in the process because people brought lawyers, and it's like a trial, like any other trial. People will write letters, will receive responses, and so on and so forth. I don't think that I know. Maybe Mona, I know that there was one in Ben Gurion and maybe one in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I know that some of the students in the Technion are still in the process, but I'm not sure what's going on.
We're talking about in all academic institutions, we're talking about hundreds of complaints. And I think that we're talking then less than 10 who reached the proceeding stage.
I want to share a note about how we're receiving information about this trend and this issue of the complaints, because on the one hand, it's very heartening to ultimately see that the numbers are very, very small. On the other hand, it's such a small community. And when one person gets a complaint and it upends their life and they have to bring a lawyer and they feel like they have to go up, everybody knows about it. And their second and third and fourth and fifth circles know about it. And I think that this has been one of the contributions to the overall feeling of persecution, because it only takes one case of somebody who has a circle of 15 friends that know about it, and just how unpleasant these situations can get.
But Ruth, you should know that in the first 4 or 5 months, it was the talk of the day in academia. Now
Less.
Not that we barely hear about it, but it's less. And I think they can give you the reflection of the way everyone responded. Academic administration, the students, the people. It was really, really crazy. And now we see it as, now we have instructions. Now we explain, we had orientation days, we had workshops, we had training, we had all kind of methods to work with students and faculty. We didn't solve the problem, but I think that we made it a little bit calmer than it used to be.
On that note, even though we just got a really, really hot potato question in the chat, I'm going to appreciate the question, recognize it's probably on people's minds, and thank you too for all the time and for all the work and sharing with us the complexity of what's happening on Israeli campuses. And hope that we'll be able to bring you back next year for a reflection and see how much more learning has been done.
And hope the war will be over by then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you both so much. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us to the end. A recording of this call will be sent in the next couple of days to everyone who registered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting us.